News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Tuesday on Wall Street, where stocks rebounded after briefly reaching a key technical level, with the S&P erasing a slide that topped 1.5% earlier in the session. So what caused the shift? Well, Ukraine now says it's ready to accept a proposal for a 30-day truce, and Ontario backed off 25% electricity tariffs. We'll have much more about both of those stories just ahead. But first, let's bring you the closing numbers. We bring them to you each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 closed down 42 points. NASDAQ closed down 32 points. The Dow lost 478 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.27% and the 2-year yield at 3.93%. Let's begin with news on Ukraine. Ukraine has accepted a U.S. proposal for a 30-day truce with Russia as part of a deal with the Trump administration to lift a freeze on military aid and intelligence for Kyiv. The U.S. will now take the proposal to Russia's President Vladimir Putin to seek his agreement, with incentives including a summit meeting with Donald Trump. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball is now in their court. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
In addition, the U.S. and Ukraine discussed the need to conduct prisoner swaps with Russia during the truce. Now let's shift to Canada, because earlier today, President Trump said he would double the tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum to 50%, starting at 1 minute past midnight tonight. This would have been in retaliation for Ontario charging a 25% tariff on electricity exported to parts of the U.S. Ontario Premier Doug Ford and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick announced that they will meet on Thursday in Washington, and the province will suspend its plans for a surcharge. So President Trump says he is rethinking those tariffs.
He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that.
The trade dispute between the U.S. and Canada rocked markets and hung a cloud of uncertainty across major North American industries, with Trump's comments causing a brief but dramatic escalation in that trade war. Meanwhile, investors are boosting their bets on the Fed cutting interest rates as fear of an economic slowdown takes hold across the markets. Bloomberg contributor and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers says a recession may be coming sooner rather than later.
We've got a real uncertainty problem. I think it's going to be hard to fix that, and we're looking at a slowdown relative to what was forecast almost for sure, and a serious near 50% prospect of recession.
Larry Summers, Bloomberg contributor and former Treasury Secretary, speaking with Bloomberg's David Weston. The National Transportation Safety Board has emergency recommendations after that deadly mid-air collision between a Black Hawk military helicopter and an American Airlines plane back in January. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy says there were more than 15,000 close proximity events between helicopters and passenger jets between 2021 and 2024 near Reagan Washington National Airport.
The existing separation distances between helicopter traffic operating on Route 4 and aircraft landing on runway 33 are insufficient and pose an intolerable risk to aviation safety by increasing the chances of a mid-air collision at DCA.
The NTSB recommends the FAA prohibits certain helicopter operations in the area over the Potomac River as that investigation is ongoing. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.